Where does Alex Singleton rank among the league's top linebackers? The voters over at ESPN that we've been talking a lot about in the past week are not huge fans of Alex, but we're going to dig into that today, talk about how he can take the next step in his career, a career that's had a bunch of different steps. We're going to look at a couple bets. I think the line right now is set at over under 155.5 tackles. Then we'll wrap things up by talking about the quarterbacks again, too. Just compare their list to our top 10. That's a plan for today, and we'll be live in 30 seconds. Welcome into the Toyota Lounge for the DNVR Broncos Podcast. I'm Henry Chisholm. This is Todd Davis. Ooh, now you're no longer Super Bowl 50 champion, Todd Davis. Not? Well, I guess, no, you're that too.
I think I'm...
No, you're still that. That doesn't go away.
Yeah.
You're Coach Todd.
Yeah.
Coach Todd. Yeah. For those of you who weren't here yesterday, this is Todd's last week on the show. He will be joining the Broncos coaching staff as an intern for the next month or so through training camp, which is going to be a lot of fun for him. But I don't know. I'm thinking maybe for your last show, we need to do, like, everybody gives you some coaching advice, or, we'll think of something fun to do for your last day.
You mean like everybody in the chat, or like everybody here at DNVR?
I think a little of both.
Okay.
I think a little bit of both.
All right.
Yeah. Coach Todd. Yeah. Oh, that'd be a fun little video. Yeah. Wow. The thing is, like, that would be... I'm nervous saying that around, like, the social media boys because they would run with that, but, like, a TikTok of you trying on all the different coaching outfits would do numbers. I also think you might lose the respect of your players before you even get there.
Yeah. That's not really like a coaches got to come in, like, tough, and then you soften up over time. You can't come in as a softie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that's right. Today we've got linebackers, which should be a lot of fun because you're a linebacker.
Yes, sir.
And so I'm kind of curious about what you think about this list. I've been sending these to Todd like the night before or the morning of so that he can take a peek, but I totally forgot to write them out because there's a video game that came out yesterday.
How'd you do?
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
It is such a great game. So my first game, I was like... Honestly, I loaded it up and I just sat there and I was like, I don't even know what to do now. Like, do I like build a dynasty? Do I do like the what do they call it? Road to Glory? Like build myself and like go play my college career. I was like, okay, first I just gotta play one game. I gotta go with the Buffs. I was like, if you're playing with the Buffs, you gotta play Nebraska in the first game. So I did that, and crazy game. Lot of ups and downs. Felt like college football. It was pretty cool. With I think 6 seconds on the clock, I hit Travis Hunter for I think it was like an 80-yard touchdown.
Oh, you're the quarterback.
No, I was everybody. I was controlling all sorts of stuff.
I thought you said you did your...
I wound up doing that after.
Oh, okay.
I made myself... I went to USC, and then like 4 games in, I was like, I don't know about this. Feels wrong.
Okay.
But yeah, I hit him 80-yard bomb, 149-46 on the walk-off touchdown. It was pretty legit.
That's dope.
Yeah.
You had a good day yesterday.
I know. And... Yeah, we've got... Oh, we should also say, I'm pretty sure... So, veterans report to camp on Tuesday. So, that isn't like the first day camp, but there'll probably be some media things for Zach and I starting early in the week. I'm pretty sure last year they actually had a couple of practices before fans were allowed. And it's an easy way just to knock out some of the unpadded practices so that the fans can come for the fun stuff.
Yeah.
That could be different this year because... there are more practices that are open to fans this year than there were last year, so maybe they just are starting with fans, and that's how the numbers worked out. But it really feels like there's 1 week left here before basically we get 7 months of Broncos football.
Yeah, I definitely feel it. Like,
yeah.
I've been getting my body ready and, waking up early and going to sleep late just because I know that's the grind.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to prepare for it now. But yeah, I definitely feel like we only have 1 week left, people, and then it's back to less drafts.
Less drafts.
Let's
Very
talk
few
about
drafts.
90s movies
Yes.
and places we would like to have a birthday, but it does get really good because the Broncos are about to be playing.
I know. We always have this split in the chat where it's like some people saying, you guys aren't talking about football at all. And then half of them are saying, like, stop talking about football and do the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So in the summer, we get to do the fun stuff. And for the next 7 months, it's just straight football, which is also a lot of fun. You also, we haven't really talked about this. You coached a little bit with CU in the spring. What's it like?
We haven't talked about that at all.
We haven't?
No.
Did that not even come up once?
No, you just blew
Oh,
my
did I?
cover. Yeah,
Damn.
It's all right.
But you, having been through this routine a little bit, like, what do you expect these days to be like?
Well, I think it was really fun out in CU.
Yeah.
But it was also the spring. So, I'm not there 24/7 as opposed to training camp. Like, you're supposed to be there 24/7. That's a part of training camp. So I think I understand kind of like the coaching player dynamic, but I think it's still the test of 5 a.m. to midnight every day for weeks straight, because in training camp your days just run together.
Yeah.
So when I played, it was like you would do 6 days on, 1 day off, 6 days on, 1 day off, and your 1 day off could be any day of the week because it all kind of just runs together. So weekends don't feel like weekends. Tuesday doesn't feel like a Tuesday. It's just all one big blur.
Yeah, I also know that feeling, and that's my life also. But it almost seems like it'd be nice staying in like the team hotel. Not that you are, or that any veteran ever wants to, but for that reason where you're just right there. You just go back and forth, and it just seems like that would make the month go by. Whereas if you go home, I guess younger players don't have like wives and families and those sorts of things, but it could almost. I don't want to call having a family a distraction, but like when you like break the routine of this is just football, and all of a sudden you need to do the dishes or there's just other things that come into play. It seems like that could be awful to deal with.
Yeah, you got to have a good partner so that you're not coming home to dirty dishes, because that would suck. No, because I think I'd rather go home. And I've always, if we had an option to stay at home or stay at the hotel, I'm always staying at home.
Yeah.
One, because if your wife finds out that you had an option and you didn't choose to stay at home,
that's true.
You'll be in more trouble.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
But it's just I think the break that you're talking about, I think I get more of a break from my kids and hanging out with them than I would like just sitting in a room by myself.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess the other side of that is that you get to. I don't see any Will Davises here today, but they are like around a lot when you're not playing football.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like a teacher schedule in some way, where it's like you work all year, but then in the summer you do have some free time. You get to be around family.
A lot of free time, and I don't think it's a bad trade-off for going hard for 7 months of the year, and then the rest of the time you have a more flexible schedule. It's a pretty good gig.
Yeah, that makes sense. I should have done that. All right, I'm gonna send you this list right now, but before I hit send, who do you think is the number one linebacker in the NFL?
Warner.
Yeah, it was that easy. I think from there is where it opens up a little bit. There's some interesting names. Even number 2 is pretty simple. I don't know. I changed all the numbers to 0 on there. So number 2, though, we've got Roquan. Number 3 is Matt Milano, who I thought was really good. I remember, I think it was the preseason game where the Broncos played the Bills a couple years ago. The one where they just got their asses kicked. And it was the Hackett season because Hackett didn't want to play any of the starters because he wanted everybody to be healthy. Meanwhile, the Bills played some starters, and so it was just unfair from the start. Like, that was the game. Quinn Miners, actually, he was the only starter who played, and that's because he asked if he would be allowed to play if he wanted to.
Yeah.
But I remember that one, Matt Milano flying around and being like, okay, I kind of get the hype now. And I think there have been some injuries since then, but I don't know. A little surprised to see him at number 3 on the list, but he is a really good linebacker.
Yeah, he's had a good career. He's kind of came up and made a name for himself. Definitely wasn't projected to be as good as he is. And he had an injury last season, kind of limited his year. But before that time, man, he was playing like with his hair on fire. And somebody who kind of worked their way on special teams. to being the starter. So definitely respect his game. Number 3 is a little high, but he does make plays, and he doesn't just make like the normal plays. He makes like game-changing plays, like causing fumbles, interceptions. He does, make some really big plays.
Yeah. One of their notes is that he's an elite zone coverage player. Not as good in man, but 5 interceptions the last 20 games, 13 pass breakups. That's a weird part of the game for a linebacker, because it's really easy for anybody, really. You don't even have to be a scout to go watch a college linebacker and say, like, oh, this guy can cover, this guy can't cover. But a lot of the time, that just is talking about man coverage. It's like, can he stick with whoever he's assigned to stick with? Zone coverage is just a different game, though.
Yeah, I wish we played more zone.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like zone is all about understanding concepts. It's less about, being like able to stay with a guy one-on-one, just kind of understand, okay, if I'm on the tight end and he goes out, okay, that probably means if I look outside to number 1, something's coming in or something's going vertical. Like, understanding those different concepts you can get in like 2x2 versus 3x1, and that's how you get really good in zone coverage. And a lot of times it's just less pressure, and you're able to have a little more freedom. And put yourself in the right position to make plays. It's hard to get interceptions in man coverage, because that means you have to be on your man. They have to throw him the ball, and you have to be in good enough position to go and then steal the ball from him.
You have to break on it.
That's way harder.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems like, man coverage is this. Pat, next time we have Pat Sertan on the show, we might disagree, but it's like 90% physical and 10% mental. Where it's like there are like the technique and like inside leverage, outside leverage, like knowing what's coming, but like a lot of it is, can you just run with this guy? Are you quick enough to react when he cuts? Whereas zone coverage, you really are just sitting there and thinking and trying to figure out what's going on as it happens.
Yeah, I feel like man's a little bit more mental than 10%. Just because if you are a really smart player, use the mental side of it to your benefit. Like, I play with Chris Harris. 9 times out of 10, when the wide receiver comes up, based on his stance, the alignment, he can tell you what he's running. So I can take the physicality out of it. I don't have to run, 100%, because I'm going to take 2 steps and line myself to where this guy's running before he even gets going. So you really can be really good if you're smart as a man-to-man guy too.
And that right there is why the last couple of off seasons, actually, I've really wanted them to bring in like a Patrick Peterson or a Stephon Gilmore, not because they're massive upgrades over what the Broncos probably have right now. They're probably a little bit better. They probably, like, there won't be a competition. Either one of those guys probably starts out the gate, but they just know so much. And when you have so many young corners, it seems like it could be valuable to have somebody in the room who's been in those situations, who knows all those little tricks, who can spend, I don't know, like the next 7 months really just passing those along. And it takes the right guy to do it, but Champ Bailey did that with Chris Harris. And so it shouldn't really be a surprise at all that Chris kind of found his way, because he had somebody to kind of teach him the ropes. And Pat's a really smart player, obviously. He'll learn a lot of things himself, but I think just having one of those voices in his ear every single day could be valuable.
Yeah, I think having older, successful players in the building usually are a benefit no matter what. Whether that guy is playing, at his peak, or if he's past his prime but passing on knowledge. Older players can, really help elevate younger players' games. But like we talked about, it does take a special guy to kind of, do that.
Yeah.
It's tough being past your prime, and then, I think you got to look at yourself as like a coach in some ways, and not see yourself as just like, I'm here to be the star I once was. You have to kind of change your mindset on it.
Yeah, and that's where you just don't know if that's what those guys are thinking. Like, there's just no way to tell unless, I don't know, you schedule the interview with them and figure out whether you want them on the team or not, which isn't something we could do, but it's something the Broncos could do. Let's just hit a couple more on this list. Patrick Queen at number 4. This kind of feels like maybe the end of this top 4 group. Nick Bolton, a really, really good linebacker.
Oh, yeah, he's in there.
He's in there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you watch Nick Bolton play, man, I mean, I think he's a good, I wouldn't say he's a good man coverage linebacker, but he's good in zone.
Which is why he fell in the draft.
He'll tackle anything that's running. He'll make the big plays. I forget what it was in the playoffs, the sack fumble game that he took to the crib. He had a sack fumble and he picked it up and took it to the crib. Like, he makes some spectacular plays, man. And I feel like it is helpful to have Chris Jones in front of you. Like, that is true, but a lot of plays he's making, he's the one that's initiating it and he's making big plays. So I would put him in that top 5. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I was kind of torn there, but I see him almost as more similar to JOK. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from the Browns. Mm-hmm. Which, now when I say it out loud, I think that's unfair because JOK does a lot of things really, really well. He can get into the backfield. He can cover. He can cover in man, really. Uh-huh. He's athletic enough. But he's still just a young player. You're still just waiting for him to develop some of those instincts. I think that there's a world in which he's number 1 on this list. Maybe it's only for like a season or two after he has like, a 5 pick and 6 sack season because he's capable of that sort of thing. But the more I think about it, Nick Bolton probably does deserve to be kind of in that tier above just because he has proven it more than JOK has. Both young players, but some of that's just opportunity too, playing in those big games. Yeah,
they're different body types, I feel like, a little bit too. Nick Bolton's a little shorter, a little stockier, so it comes with a little more punch. JOK's a little bit taller, leaner. I think that's why it helps him out in man coverage. But I think side by side, I think Nick Bolton is a better linebacker, primarily because of what he can do downhill. Now, JOK will get into the backfield and make plays. I just think Nick Bolton is very much sideline to sideline. And what I like about Nick Bolton is that when you look at him, there are plays you expect him not to make. Yeah. And he makes them.
Definitely.
So I think that's even more of a credit to him, is like, you would expect this guy to be a little bit slower in the pass coverage or not as quick, you know what I'm saying? Maybe just be able to hit the A gap. But he's really, really a versatile linebacker.
Yep. Definitely. Yeah, and I mentioned, like, that's why he fell in the draft, is just because he's not a man coverage linebacker. Mm-hmm. He's just not built for that. And because of that, I can't remember if he fell to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. But that was the difference. And then you get to the NFL and all of a sudden, like, playing man coverage as a linebacker just isn't a thing that's 5% of the job, 10% of the job. And if you're not good at it, it's very easy to cover that up. It's very easy just to say, like, okay, you've got the linebacker or the running back here, and we just don't even have to worry about it. Yeah. Real quick, got to give a shout out to our friends over at UC Health. We went out there for that home run derby, Healthy Swings home run derby, and that was like a week into our partnership with UC Health. A lot of really awesome people there. We got to meet a whole bunch of the different people who have a whole bunch of different roles out there. Really excited about this partnership. We've seen a couple of them at the bar, actually. We had that Madden tournament a couple weeks ago. And you can just tell that they actually, like, they care about the people who they're trying to help. It's they've got the program we've talked about before, focusing on mental health, where they're sharing some stories about their patients, Coloradans who have gone through some pretty unique health journeys, like David Schlicht, who we've talked about before, who's a teenager, outdoorsy type of guy, lives like there's no tomorrow. He was training as an Olympic hopeful, but all of a sudden there was an accident, a skiing accident where he lost his leg. They amputated it actually and got a prosthetic, able to get him going outside and being outdoors again. So a lot of those sorts of, like, mental health stories, and you can take a look at some of them, actually a bunch of them, if you go over to their website, uchealth.org/tomorrow, because they want you to live like there is a tomorrow.
Absolutely. And shout out to our friends over at Toyota. Every Monday through Friday, we are brought to you from the Toyota Lounge, and we love Toyota. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR, and they have so many unique vehicles that you should go and buy and try. I think they're awesome, from the Tacoma to the Land Cruisers to the Prius. Whatever you're into, Toyota definitely has you covered, and they offer 17 models with available with all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, which is perfect for Colorado because, we get all 4 seasons, and then we have beautiful mountains if you want to go hang out and have a good time. Toyota will definitely have you covered. And you need to check out your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. They have AutoNation Toyota Arapahoe in Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson's Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, official automotive partner of the NFL.
Awesome. Moving along, so we had JOK at 6. Round out the top 10, it's Tremaine Edmonds, Demario Davis, Dre Greenlaw, Foye Luikin. Demario Davis, the only older guy there. It's kind of crazy at 35 that he's still doing basically what he's always done.
Yeah, he's I think he just has a good fit over there in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. He knows how to find the ball and make plays. And he's similar to me. He's very similar to Nick Bolton in my eyes. I think Nick Bolton's just a younger version of Demario Davis. I think a lot of these guys are different. I think Fred Warner and Edmonds are similar as far as body type. They're both 6'3", taller guys. But I feel like for me, Nick Bolton's just a younger Demario Davis, bigger guy, makes plays in the running game, and he's been doing it for a long time.
Yep. Honorable mentions, we got C.J. Mosley, Levante David, who... No, he's not still a free agent. Who is the other linebacker the Bucks had? Quan Alexander. He's still a free agent.
Yeah.
Quincy Williams, Logan Wilson, Zaire Franklin, T.J. Edwards, who actually... So T.J. Edwards is the reason the Eagles moved on from Alex Singleton. They chose Edwards instead. Edwards now with the Bears. And then Bobby Wagner with the Commanders, which is crazy. Also receiving votes, you got Jordan Brooks, Christian Harris, Frankie Louvu, and Devin White.
Yeah, I think this receiving votes category has some good players. Louvu just got another contract, right?
Yep.
So they're expecting big things out of him at the Panthers.
Commanders. He was Panthers, but Commanders gave him the contract.
Yes. So they're expecting big things from him.
So they paired him with Bobby Wagner.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah. Bobby's a little older, though. I think Bobby has always flourished in zone schemes and downhill, running game. And he's just been able to find home after home that'll let him do that.
Yep.
He's been going, to a couple different places, but I used to sit back and watch Seattle film and be like, man, I wish I could play cover 3 every play. I hate playing man-to-man 40 times a game. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And I mean, I worked hard to be good at it, but just naturally, I was like a zone and then downhill, run guy. That was what I felt like I was just naturally good at.
Yep.
But I never had a real opportunity to play in that scheme. I was like, man, I feel like I could have killed it.
That's a good. It's fun watching Bobby still. Obviously not. He doesn't have the athleticism he used to. But in going back and watching some Seattle games from last year, because that's the Broncos' Week 1 opponent.
Yeah.
Everywhere you look, it's just guys missing tackles. There's flying in at crazy angles. Devon Witherspoon will just fall right off a guy, except for Bobby Wagner. He's the only guy on that defense where every time it's just just plugged up a Gavin Mill, grabbed him, knocked him backwards. It's just that simple.
Yeah, because he's so solid. I don't know. I feel like he is still athletic, but his athleticism is more of this generation, but the size is more of the last generation of linebackers. Because he's a lot bigger, I feel like, than most linebackers.
Huh. I wonder what they list him. Yeah, I wonder if that's true. If actually if he hasn't lost that much athleticism, but everybody else has just become so much more athletic. Because that really is what people are looking for in linebackers now. And I think it's also... I think there's a lot that goes into how the linebacker position has changed. But I think one of the reasons teams aren't drafting linebackers as high is because the bust rate is so high. So many of them don't work out. But I think that bust rate is so high because you're not going and getting the best linebackers from college football, guys who can stop the run, can play simple zone coverage. Teams are out there just trying to draft the fastest linebacker they can.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden that guy doesn't work out, and so then people don't want to draft linebackers anymore.
Yeah, I think the linebacker position is very, very unique because you have guys that have to do different things based on the scheme that they're in. Even you talk about the top 10 guys, talk about Fred Warner, what they're asking him to do versus Patrick Queen or Nick Bolton. They're not asking those guys to do the same thing. And then, Edmonds and CJ Mosley are similar, but they're not asking Quincy Williams to do the same thing. So it's all very different, and it all depends on the scheme that you're in. And I feel like that's what really allows linebacker to flourish or not, is that similar to slot receivers, you have to be in a position that works for you, and you have to be in a scheme that fits what you do best as a player.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it used to be that linebackers are kind of split up. Like, you have the strong side linebacker, your weak side linebacker, you have your Mike linebacker, and it made it easier to compare because you knew, like, oh, well,
he's a Will, he's a Mike.
Exactly. Yeah. He's going to be blitzing more. He's going to be covering more tight ends. He's just but now the way people talk about it, just inside or outside. With outside or on ball, off ball, I guess is probably the way people talk about more, where on the ball, you know, lined up on the line of scrimmage, off ball, it's just like, oh, you're one of those guys who sits back there. But it does leave out a whole bunch of the nuance about the different roles that those guys have. Yeah,
because I think back in the day, you had like the I formation and you had the tight end, and most of the time you ran towards the tight end. Your fullback led block towards the tight end, so that Mike linebacker had to be a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, more downhill. And on the other side, if they ever got in like a 2x2 formation, that's where you have the slot receiver that your Will would sometimes have to, like, you know, zone cover. Or if they ran like anything, any play action, it was always going back to the Will, and he had to be there to respond. Now, the way offenses are set up, they can run whatever they want out of any front, out of any formation.
Yeah.
So that you got to be prepared on both sides for whatever they're throwing at you, and that kind of has made the change the linebacker position to really like two linebackers that need to be able to both be good in the run and both be good in the pass.
Definitely. I think, you know, you see that there are a lot more teams now that try to keep it neutral, like which side's the strong side. Like they'll flip right and left, right and left. I think the Broncos last year, 2/3 of the time, the right side was still their strong side. And when they ran the ball, I'm pretty sure they went to the strong side about 2/3 of the time. But that's one of those kind of like philosophical changes that has happened where teams want to be neutral. But at the same time, when you build an offensive line and you know left tackle or pass protector, right tackle is where you put your like your run blocker. Your right guard is your run blocking guard. That's your Quinn Miners. Ben Powers, more pass protector on the left side. I like the idea where you say, like, we know what we're good at, and so we're going to build this right here to be a section of the line that we can just run behind, and you can kind of counter off of it. Like, you can, like, tweak your tendency a little bit. Like, you can know that you've been running strong side over and over and over again, and then flip something to the weak side, and all of a sudden they might not see it coming.
Yeah, but I think you don't want to show your hand too much, because it's like, if you always like run to the strong side, we're just going to slant our D line to the strong side every time. And the one time you run to the weak side, we're just, if you get 10 yards, we're going to live with it. But we're going to stuff all these other plays, you know what I'm saying, 90% of the time. So it's definitely something that you got to like manipulate. You can't have tendencies, and that's something that's big. Like during the bye week, we go back and see what all our tendencies are as the defense, and I know the offense does the same thing. So that they make sure that they're a little bit more balanced than just having kind of tells. Yeah.
And so I can't pull up the exact Broncos numbers right now. I remember it was about 2/3 of the time tight end was on the right, but I can pull up the total of rushing attempts the Broncos had by each gap.
Okay.
So the most, they had 91 attempts outside the tight end to the right side.
Okay.
Second most is in the A gap on the right side. Third most is between the tackle and the tight end on the right side at 48. So 91, 55, 48. And then you get the A gap on the left at 46.
Okay.
So it does come out, I'm sure, to at least 2/3 of the runs going to that side, which I kind of like the idea of, like, this is our fastball. We're throwing fastball, and then we try to get you on the curveball, you know? I don't know. It's interesting. We should probably we're a little bit behind schedule. That's fine, though. Gotta give a shout out to Bet365. I have a couple of bets that I want to talk about with Alex Singleton here in a second. Bet365 is a lot of fun. Home Run Derby was last night. There isn't a lot to bet on at the moment, though, at least for these next couple days. I think baseball comes back Friday. Oh, I guess you can bet on the All-Star game tonight, of course. Last year, Rockies catcher Elias Diaz had the it was a walk-off home run, I believe. He was All-Star game. Oh, was it not a home run? Okay, well, he had the walk-off. And they won All-Star game MVP. So I'm thinking maybe you give a little sprinkle to Ryan McMahon.
Shout out to Ryan McMahon.
Shout out to Ryan McMahon.
My best friend's name is Ryan McMahon.
Really?
And it's so hilarious. Yeah, his name literally the same. And they actually grew up like 4 miles away from each other. And they both played football in high school. So he said every time he would go somewhere, they'd be like, "Oh, you're Ryan McMahon." He's like, "No, not that Ryan McMahon."
Oh,
it's crazy.
That would be tough. Ryan McMahon is awesome though. And let's see. Oh, I can't find the All-Star Game MVP bets. It's all right. Bet on him because how much fun would it be for the Rockies to have the All-Star Game MVP back-to-back years? That's what I want. Bet365 is awesome. If you want to sign up, you can make some, I guess not totally risk-free bets, depending on which way you go, but you deposit $10. You can take the bet and get offer, place about $5 or more, and get $150 in bonus bets. That's a pretty good deal. Or you take the first bet safety net offer, you place a bet up to $1,000. If that qualifying bet loses, you receive a match refund in bonus bets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
And shout out to Coors Light, the only beer that is made to chill. Everybody has a lot going on in their lives, and sometimes you just need to take a break, relax, and chill and reset. I know that I will become real familiar with Coors Light over the course of the next month or so. I know I'll be working hard, and when I need to chill, I'll definitely go and grab a Coors Light. They taste great. You know when they're cold by the mountains on the front.
I was drinking some
Coors Light.
Coors Lights at the UFC fights. They're so good.
It goes perfect together.
They're so good. Yeah.
And if you want Coors Light delivered straight to your door, you can do so by going to Instacart or go to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. So you don't even have to leave the house. Coors comes straight to you. So you can chill before it gets there, and then it's already chilled. Just chilling on chilling.
What a deal.
Remember to celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company in Golden, Colorado.
All right. Alex Singleton, right now, 5th best odds to lead the NFL in tackles.
That's
like
not bad.
total assists, like combined, all that. Foye Oluokun, Zaire Franklin, Bobby Wagner, Roquan Smith, then Alex. 12-1 odds. Is that tempting to you?
Yeah.
He's going to be in the conversation.
For sure. The only reason he's going to be in the conversation because he puts up tackles. I don't think Bobby Wagner has it in him anymore to lead the league in tackles. Roquan is in a division where he can get a lot of tackles.
That is true, isn't
so
it?
that's a little bit it's a little worrisome right there. But who else is on the list?
Oluokun,
okay,
who I think led the NFL in tackles last year.
Okay.
No, Bobby Wagner did.
No, he didn't. Again?
183.
Oh, wow.
So
That's so many tackles.
Yeah, that is
Somebody's
crazy.
had his stats. There's no way. There's no way.
That's the thing, though, is like that Seattle defense, nobody could make a tackle. They just bounce right off of it, and then he gets to make the tackle.
Yeah, well, how they play is they play cover 3. They play cover 3 or cover 2. And in cover 2, he's the middle runner. But all the edges are supposed to be set, and then the other linebackers that they have in, because sometimes they run a 4-3, they're told to box everything, which means you keep your outside arm free and then box it back to the middle. So literally, everything's being pushed to him to make tackles. So 183 is crazy.
So it was 183 for him. Zaire Franklin had 179.
Yeah.
Alex had 177.
That's
So
a lot of tackles.
away. That's a ridiculous amount.
That's a lot of tackles.
He was saying last year he wanted 200, which I mean, like, everybody wants 200.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a real chance he does it. You can also make the bet over under 155.5.
Yeah, I think he can go over that.
The only thing, and we'll knock on wood, it's just injuries. Like,
but he's been
if he
healthy.
plays every game, exactly, and that's why I think I take the over regardless.
And Josie for sure probably stole 15 or 20 throughout the year. That's only like, maybe one a game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. How can Alex get better? What's the next step for him?
You talking about for him to make this list, or for people to view him as a top 5 linebacker?
Oh, well, first of all, just to be a better player. Like where could he improve his game so that he then becomes like whatever the next evolution is? Because you remember, like, he was a special teams guy. First of all, he wasn't even in the NFL. He was in the CFL, star in the CFL. They still love him in Calgary. then winds up getting the shot with the Eagles where he's a special teams guy, and then shows up and makes a bunch of tackles, but it was like at an average depth of like 6 yards. Then that average depth kind of came down, and then he came to Denver, and he was seen as a special teams guy, and then we've all obviously seen the growth to him being a good linebacker. But what's next?
I feel like for him, I guess the answer is the same for whether it's just him as a player or him to be viewed as the best, one of the best linebackers in the league, because if you were fourth in tackles last year, and you were really high on the list the year before. I know he was. There's no reason why you should be ranked highly on this list, or at least got a vote, or at least honorable mention. The difference between him and some of these guys I see online is that on this list is that he has to make the spectacular plays. He can make the tackle. He's going to tackle you. He's going to make good plays in the run game, in the passing game. He needs interceptions, and he needs forced fumbles, and he needs like a touchdown. If he could do those things, I think that's how he gets above, the guys that we've been talking about on the list. And I think it's very similar to Pat. I think Pat is hands down the best corner in the league, coverage. And that's what corners do. They cover, 100% of the time. That's their job. For Pat to be the number one corner, like without a doubt in everybody's mind, interceptions, pick sixes, like that's
pass
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna. I think he gets the pass breakups.
Yeah, I wonder where he ranks.
I think he gets the pass breakups, and he gets the he cover you so good they don't even want to throw it. I think just for him to be like,
Yep.
Because they always talk about him and Sauce, even though we know who's better. But I think the only reason they talk about them two in the same conversation is because Sauce is not as good as Pat in the coverage aspect, just lining up man to man, but he does get more of the picks and interceptions and pick sixes, things like that.
Definitely. And I think you're right about Alex, because I think it was him. It might have been Josie. One of those two dropped an interception on the sideline like early in the season. Was that one Josie? But
oh no, that was Alex. What game was it? The Bills. That was the Bills.
Josie had one that he almost got like this. I think Alex had the one on the sideline.
Yeah, he had one on the sideline.
But when you're a linebacker, you just don't get too many opportunities. And it feels like what makes Fred Warner so great is that when he gets that opportunity, he's going to take advantage. Like you get what, maybe 5 opportunities to pick off a pass a season as a linebacker.
Yeah, depending on what coverage you're in, for sure.
Yeah, you can't let those go to waste. And so if he just capitalizes on those, then all of a sudden you do feel like, because he has the rest of it.
Like he's
like, I don't think there's a part of the game where he isn't at least solid. He's gotten to the point where like he knows where it's going. Like the tackling, he had a couple misses, but for the most part,
which were uncharacteristic.
Exactly. When you look at the rest of his career, he's a solid tackler at worst and probably a good tackler. When you look at like the range sideline to sideline, like run game, let's just say run game only, he has plenty of speed, plenty of like just range, I guess is the only way to put it. In the passing game, the zone coverage is there. Man coverage, he's not a freaky, like, again, Fred Warner type of guy, but he can get by. It's just finding he has the tackles as a strength. Add one more, and then all of a sudden you might be pushing this list.
For sure.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit yesterday on the mailbag, but how do you see this linebacker position kind of playing out? It sucks, first of all, that there's no Drew Sanders. It would have been fun to see what he could do in his second year, because, I mean, there were ups and downs last year. The downs were early in the season. The ups were later in the season, which is what you want to see from a young player. But now it feels like you might be in a situation where you just have a stopgap. But realistically, you could get out of Alex's contract after this season. So if a Jonas Griffith does pop and you think a Drew Sanders could be ready, you could move on. I think I'd be surprised if that happens. Again, because we had the same conversation about Josie last year when they could have gotten out his deal a year early. But just big picture, how do you see the future of the linebackers? Because Alex is he 30? Is he 29? He's getting a little bit up there in linebacker years.
Yeah, he's getting a little bit up there, but I've never seen his play diminish yet.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Definitely
I think you need a year and a half of just kind of like downhill before you're actually like on the descent. And he's continued to get better every year. That might have been the most tackles he's had in a career last year.
I think it might have been.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like your play diminished? Because you retired young.
To be honest, no. I felt like I still could have played. I just didn't like there's some things in the politics I didn't like about it. And I didn't love just like continuing to prove myself when my play hadn't diminished.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's for another pod. But just this linebacker group, I feel like, I know we keep talking about Drew Sanders, but I don't necessarily feel like Drew is an inside linebacker. And I feel like he's like fits better on the edge. You talk about his ups and downs last year. I felt like his downs when he was standing up off ball, and his ups were when he was on the line of scrimmage, whether getting out to the quarterback or being able to drop in the covers. Like that's when I felt like he looked at his best.
I think so too.
So specifically this linebacker group, I see Alex kind of staying around for a little bit. I don't know the depth for like next guy up is not necessarily there. You know what I'm saying? I think Sternad is his backup right now. I think he's a very solid player. But I don't know if he's necessarily ready to come in and have 170 tackles either. And then just the other guys, Jonas could easily, stay for a little while because he's young, and he has all the physical traits. Can he put it all together is the question for him. Cody's new, but he is not old by any means, and he has experience. And I think he's playing on a deal that's very much a prove-it deal that could be extended if they see great things for him. So all in all, I think everybody is in a good space. Now it's just about how everybody like takes advantage of their opportunity.
Yeah. It's because I don't know if, like, just say Alex wants to be a Bronco for the next 5 years. I don't know what's better for him in terms of making that more possible, whether it's, Jonas pops or Cody pops, or they feel like they don't have either one of those guys. Because I think that you could see Alex and Jonas playing together, for example, or Cody, and say, like, this is going well. Let's just keep this going for the foreseeable future. You could also say, like, Alex looks good, but it looks like we need another inside linebacker to pair with him. And if that's the case, then you go out and add a guy. But the thing about Alex is that you're not paying him a lot. It's why it comes out to like $6 million a year, which in NFL money is almost nothing. And that's something that you could probably justify paying for a second inside linebacker. Like it seems unlikely that any team, but the Broncos in particular, are going to go out and just sign like a $15 million a year guy. But if you did that, you could keep Alex next to him. If you wanted to use a first round pick on a linebacker, you could keep Alex next to him. Yeah. At the same time, if you wanted Alex to kind of be I still looked at Josie last year as kind of like their number one. He was the Mike linebacker. Like he was the middle linebacker of that defense. I think you could really justify Alex as kind of that number one or number two. It's just going to be interesting to figure out whether you have somebody on the team who you want to build around, or you're going out and finding a guy who you think fits well with Alex.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the thought process, though. I think it's less about which one of the two guys that are fighting for a position next to him, how they do. I think it's just all based on how Alex does. Yeah. I think that whether he's here long term or whether they going out and find somebody to pair with him is all based on his play. If he has like 2 more years like he's had, I mean, he'll be here and they'll find somebody to pair with him. Or if, like you said, Cody or Jonas pops, he'll be here and then one of them will be here to play next to Alex. But yeah, I think, his whole destiny is in his hands. I don't think that, and I also don't know if anybody else out there could control it. Like even if there was a really good inside linebacker that would come play for cheap, I still think you keep Alex and move the other guy inside, no matter what.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how it plays out. Because I wouldn't be surprised if the linebackers wind up being a strength of the team. Like, I think there's a path for that to happen. It also helps that there aren't a lot of like clear strengths at the moment. But there's a world in which you wind up looking pretty good there. There's also a world in which you say like, hey, we need to find somebody who can really solidify things either next to Alex or in place of Alex or however it may play out. But I guess that's just how most of this team is built at this point.
It is at a couple of positions, but I really hope that the linebackers are the strength of the team. Like nothing else would make me happier than the linebackers going out there and balling and just knowing what to expect from your interior linebackers, having a couple guys hit somebody in the mouth. I think that linebackers can do so much to the team. Chemistry and how they play is important. What they say is important. And they can really easily spark a game. There's been plenty of times that we've been in the game and it's been dead. And then all of a sudden somebody makes a big hit and all of a sudden like we got some juice and now we're ready to rock. Like the linebackers have a lot of responsibilities in order to like help the team week in and week out. Yep. So I would love nothing more than, the Denver Broncos linebackers to be the best tandem in football, and people are talking about them around the country.
Yep. It feels, they can just be the identity of a team. And I think for the Broncos defense last year, part of the problem was they just didn't have an identity. Like it was, like you have Pat and you have Justin, but they never felt like a cohesive, like you can't throw on this defense because you just had holes in other spots. Like the pass rush wasn't getting home fast enough. Like there were just too many games where there was like teams were able to run on them. There just wasn't like I think Kareem brought some of that. Where like if you had Kareem, if all those hits were like 4 inches lower or wherever they would have been, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, this feels physical. Maybe guys like rally around that. But hopefully this year they wind up with some sort of identity somehow. But just tough to say what that will be.
And you know what's crazy about this list? You can't name one guy on this list. This list is full of teams that are known for their linebackers. Yeah. And every single team is good. Yep. Fred Warner, 49ers defense, awesome. Roquan Smith, Ravens defense, what more can you say? The Bills have been great for years with Milano. Patrick Queen was with the Ravens. Bolton, the Chiefs have just started balling. DeMario Davis, Dre Greenlaw, another 49ers linebacker like JOK.
Yep.
The Browns are fantastic. Like any defense that has great linebackers and is known for their linebackers is good.
Yep.
So, I mean, why not us?
Yeah. No, you look at all the Super Bowl teams and all that the past few years. They're all teams that are just built up the middle. Like they're good at defensive tackle. They're good at linebacker. They're good at safety. And then again, you find an edge rusher, you find a corner, and things work out. Let's hit these top 10 lists for quarterbacks. I'm a little bit upset that Zach isn't here today because I want to take a little bit of a victory lap because the 80 voters that ESPN put together decided that
none, no, not one.
Jalen Hurts is honorable mention. Oh, he's not top 10. Oh, yeah, that tush push. Yeah. But I mean, he was the one who had him in front of Dak, and that was the big debate. Number 1, Pat Mahomes.
But they put
number 2, Burrow. Number 3, Josh Allen. Number 4, Lamar. Number 5, Stafford. Number 6, Herbert. 7, Stroud. 8, Rodgers. 9, Goff. 10, Dak. There's a lot going on with this list.
Yeah, this is a interesting list.
Yeah.
It's a good list. I mean, like the guys that are on there should be on there for most of the list. Stafford has been doing it for so long. I think that's why you have to put him on the list. I don't know if he's the 5th best quarterback in the NFL right now, but I mean, he's led the league in passing plenty of times.
He has.
He was a dog with the Lions. He was a dog with the Rams. Come on. You can't say Matthew Stafford's not a hell of a quarterback.
Yep.
My biggest critique is this like honorable mention category right here. Because you got Purdy, Love, Hurts, Tua, Kirk, Lawrence. Now, if this is in order, they're putting Purdy and Jordan Love above Jalen Hurts. Come on, guys.
Oh,
come on, guys.
Yeah. And I think we're assuming
Jordan Love
these
did
all
it for
seem
1
like
year.
they're in order.
And half a year.
Half a year. Remember what he did when he was in Denver? That was not good.
Yeah. So I definitely would lower them on the honorable mention for sure.
Yep. I even go up to the top. Joe Burrow at number 2 just I get that there's like probably this group of 4 young great quarterbacks who seem like they're like on pace to be the face of the league. But you have Joe Burrow there. He was 5-5 last year. Like he threw for like 210 yards a game. The passer rating was no good. I get that he was hurt, but he's always hurt.
Injured, yeah.
Like you even look at these like quote from a veteran offensive coach. Baller, release, decision making, tough as nails. It's like tough as nails, but he also gets his ass kicked every game and then doesn't show up for half the season. So I don't know. If you just want to throw out everything we saw last season, then I guess you could get behind this. But even when he was on the field, he wasn't great. And just because of that, why not Josh Allen in front of him? Why not Lamar? Like, those guys actually looked good last year, and they don't need that excuse of, well, I mean, he was hurt.
Well, but I don't know if that's an excuse, but it's what happened, and I just don't know. I think that if you talk about Lamar and Allen, specifically Allen, they have huge weaknesses.
True.
What's Joe Burrow's weakness?
Well, he doesn't play most
Injuries.
of the time. Yeah.
Injuries. But that's not something that happens on the field. You know what I'm saying? It happens on the field, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, it's not his decisions on where he throws the ball. It's not his ball placement to where he's causing a lot of interceptions. He can make every throw on the field. Had a great run in the playoffs. Was that last year? 2 years ago?
2 years ago. Couple years ago.
Yeah. So, I don't know, man. He's just not healthy.
But like, how long? If this happens again, he has to fall, right? If he does what he did last year, let's see if I can find the per game numbers here. I know where they are, but they just won't look. Oh, there it is. Okay, so he had 230 passing yards per game. He had a 91 quarterback rating, completed 66.8% of his passes, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He played 10 games. He was 5-5. You look at
his hand was hurt.
Yeah, his hand was hurt. Yeah,
and then the last 5 games were much better than the first 5.
They were,
but he starts slow every year.
Yep.
And so who all would you put above Joe Burrow on this list?
Lamar and Josh Allen.
So only 2 people.
Yeah, and honestly, even Josh Allen's probably a debate. I think you might be able to make a case for some others, but it's probably not worth it. So Lamar Jackson, 229.9 passing yards per game. Burrow's at 230.9. Joe Burrow has 1 more yard per game. On
Just
top
last year, though.
Yep, last year.
Yeah.
You also have Lamar at 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions versus 15 and 6. Lamar has the better completion percentage, and those are the passing numbers that are just about the same. You factor in what Lamar can do running the football, and all of a sudden it's Lamar way up here. And so that's just why I get that he probably doesn't suck, because he was like a pretty average quarterback last year when he was healthy, and their injuries and all that. But for this list, like, who would you rather have? I'd rather go with a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson, they look really good. Like, they looked really good recently.
Who's gone the furthest in the playoffs?
Burrow's gone the furthest.
And who's the youngest out of those 3?
All 3 27.
Burrow just came out later.
Yeah. Hasn't played as many seasons. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And the only person to beat Mahomes was Burrow. I think that's why you give him the nod.
That was so long ago now.
Can you beat the man, though?
So long ago.
That's like Iverson. Iverson had hella crossovers, but he wasn't the man till he crossed up Jordan.
And now what do we say about him?
What do you mean?
I mean, he's great. He's great.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, if he was playing, like, who else was playing that era? Like, Kobe's playing in that era.
Yeah.
You got like
Kobe even said that's his hardest competitor ever.
You got like Shaq in that era. And
Kobe's even said, like, if Allen Iverson was 6'6", he would have ran the NBA. He was just short.
If Joe Burrow was healthy, he would have run the NFL, but he's just not.
True.
Yeah,
that's true. That doesn't take away from his greatness, though.
I'm saying Joe Burrow number 2. We're living in 2021. Matt Stafford at number 5, second oldest starting quarterback in the NFL behind Aaron Rodgers. Again, like, and this has been true of all these lists, is they just don't seem to worry too much about the injuries. But like, the elbow was an issue and has been an issue for a couple years. I don't know. You can make the case that he's the reason that Cooper Kupp did what he did and Puka did what he did, and Calvin Johnson back in the day. You can also make the case that those are also really good receivers, and I don't know, 5 just seems a bit high. But then you also look and say, like, could you justify putting him in front of Herbert at 6? Absolutely. Could you justify putting him in front of Stroud at 7? Absolutely. Stroud just hasn't done it long enough. Aaron Rodgers at 8? That one gets tougher for me. Like, if Stafford and Rodgers, you have like the same kind of complaints about him. unless you want to get into the off-field stuff with Aaron Rodgers. But like Rodgers has been better in the past.
Yes, but you talked about a lot about last year.
Yeah,
I think if Aaron
totally.
Rodgers plays, he's not number, what is that, 8.
Yeah,
He'll be higher.
that's true.
It's also best quarterbacks in the NFL, not best quarterbacks in the NFL last year.
Yeah, but definitely. But like that is the most recent that we've seen them.
But you got to take everything into account, not just that.
Okay, I guess Russell Wilson's pretty good then.
He didn't make the list.
No, didn't make the list. Didn't make the list. That's last 2 years too. It's not just last year. But yeah,
It was even the year before that. He was kind of.
Jared Goff at 9. Again, can't argue with it. Dak at 10. If Dak was just older, I think he'd be up there high. Like eventually, he's going to have some playoff success. And I know people say like, "Oh, he's just not that guy." I think that's just it's a team that's built for the regular season. You know, you need to be able to have like a consistent running. You have to have a defense that can make plays, and it seems like they're a little bit more of like a speedy, flashy team than a real like when push comes to shove, we can just out physical you and win.
I don't know, man. It's weird because they've done it. They've done all of that in the regular season. They've had a great defense. They've had a great running back and running game. They've had the best O lineman in football. But I don't know what happens. Come like December, January, they just fall apart.
I guess what I see is it's more of a Cowboy problem than a Dak problem.
Maybe
I get,
so.
Like, I'm not saying he should be like way up there at the top, but like I think that narrative kind of gets pushed a little bit harder than it probably should. I mean, Jared Goff, for example, he went to a Super Bowl, and that one Super Bowl run kind of outweighs, if not for that, which again, that's a big caveat. How would people see him? And that's where, like, if Dak just has one good postseason at any point in the next 5 years, I think that all of a sudden he's pretty clearly in front of a Jared Goff. He hasn't done it yet, though.
Yeah, but Goff has revitalized himself.
He has.
I think before this last year, a lot of people would have put Dak above Jared Goff. But he's had more playoff success in 2 years than Dak has had his whole career.
Definitely. I also
That's
think
not good.
it's just a Cowboys problem to me. And he's a Cowboys part of it. But like even when Tony Romo was there, like they were struggling in the postseason. Like they things never worked out for him. So I don't know. If
You saying he's getting unfairly bashed for not winning in the playoffs?
I think so. I think the argument has to be consistent with him and Lamar. And Lamar gets bashed too, but like Lamar being at 4 with that concern, Dak being at 10, and Lamar has the MVPs, but Dak has also had some really great seasons where he's right there. That just feels like a big gap for those two.
But Lamar has won playoff games and lost to Mahomes, which is a formidable opponent. And Dak's problem is they could go 14-3, and he'll have almost 5,000 yards, and they'll lose in the first game by 30. Like,
oh yeah,
what?
Well, I mean, I think it was going into last year. Over the past 3 years, the Cowboys had the best record in the NFL. Regular season.
Yeah,
and it was like them first, the Chiefs second. And I'm not sure what happened last year, but I'd imagine they didn't do anything to really hurt themselves there. Like all the regular season success is there, not just like stats wise, but also like they just win 80% of the time they take the field, which is almost unheard of at this point. It's just the playoffs, and so much of that's fluky. And I'm not saying he should be way up there at the top, but like, why is Justin Herbert 6? He hasn't failed in the playoffs because his team doesn't even get to the playoffs.
Exactly. I understand that. Would you rather have Dak or Burrow?
I think I'd rather have Dak. Today, I'd rather have Dak. And I might look back. Like, I don't think there's a world in which I look back and say, oh my God, how could I have said that? Like, maybe Joe Burrow's teams really go on to be that great. But to me, like, they're just not that different of a guy. And Dak, I trust to be healthy. Again, like there's the playoff concerns, but it's just so fluky. And Burrow had that one really good playoff run, and he's won a couple other games
as
in
a
there
young
too.
player.
But
though.
Like that's
what year was that when he went to the playoffs and had a run? Year 2.
Year 2.
Come on, man, that's hard.
Oh, definitely. No, that was incredible. But the number 2 quarterback in the league at this point, like that was a great run.
Who's a player that's had health issues, but we know it's still hella good. I'm trying to think of somebody to compare Joe Burrow to as a quarterback with, like, just in general. I know there's a long list of them, but that's where I put him. Is that? Yeah. But there's a long list of guys who we know are talented. They just are injury prone, and I feel like with him, I don't know. Like his injuries do seem fluky, so you hope the flukiness stops. He's not like tearing his ACL every time he goes out there. You know, he's like finger needs surgery or like something weird.
Yep.
So you hope that at some point, all that kind of calms down.
You do hope so. That's going to do it for today. We've got to get out of here. We have one more note. Actually, two quick things. Apparently, Brandon Ayuk actually just demanded a trade, which is interesting. And also, we got the reply from Kim Singleton saying we should be betting the over on the 155.5. So keep that in mind.
I like that.
That's going to do it for today. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.